I've been to a lot of weddings in my 61 years on this earth. I've seen flower girls trip down the aisle. I've seen grooms cry before the bride even walked in. I've seen drunk uncles give speeches that nobody asked for. But I have never, not once, seen a grown woman crouch behind a decorated chair at her own wedding reception and pour superglue on the seat. Until my son's wedding day. And the chair she targeted, it belonged to my wife, the mother of the groom, the woman who spent 14 months helping plan that entire event. What happened next? Well, let's just say that by the end of that night, karma didn't need my help, but I gave it a little nudge anyway.
My name is Gerald. I'm 61 years old, retired from 20 years in commercial construction, living in a mid-sized town in central Ohio. My wife, Donna, is 58. We've been married 34 years. She is, and I mean this without a single drop of exaggeration, the most patient, warm-hearted, generous woman I have ever known. We have 2 kids. Our daughter Melissa, who lives in Colorado with her husband and 2 little boys. And our son Brandon. Our youngest. 29 years old, works in finance, the kind of kid who makes you feel like you actually did something right as a parent. For the past 2 years, Brandon had been dating a woman named Courtney. She was 27, worked in real estate, drove a car that was more expensive than most people's first homes, and carried herself like she expected the world to part whenever she walked through it. I want to be fair here. I'm going to try my best to be fair. Because I know I'm telling this from one side. But here's the truth. From the very first time Brandon brought Courtney home for Thanksgiving, something felt off. It was hard to put into words. She wasn't rude exactly. It was more subtle than that. It was the way she'd smile at Donna's cooking but barely touch her plate. The way she'd answer questions about herself but never once ask anything in return. The way she'd glance around our house like she was quietly calculating what it was worth. Donna never said anything negative. That's just who she is. She kept reaching out, kept inviting Courtney to things, kept trying to build a connection. But the harder Donna tried, the more Courtney seemed to pull back. Still, Brandon was happy. And when your kid is happy, you find a way to make peace with the rest. So when Brandon proposed to Courtney 18 months ago, we smiled. We hugged him. Donna cried happy tears. And we told ourselves that once the wedding planning started, things would get better. We were wrong. The planning started almost immediately. And almost immediately, it became clear that this wedding was going to be Courtney's wedding. Full stop. Now, I understand that. Most weddings are the bride's domain. I'm not here to argue tradition. But what started happening was something different. It wasn't just Courtney taking charge, it was Courtney systematically pushing Donna out. Every suggestion Donna made was politely declined. The venue Donna loved? Too outdated. The florist Donna recommended, a woman she'd known for 20 years? Doesn't match the aesthetic. The color scheme Donna suggested for the family table? Clashes with the bridesmaids. At first, Donna brushed it off. She'd call me from the car after planning meetings and I could hear the hurt in her voice, but she'd always finish with, "It's her wedding, Gerald. It's supposed to be her vision." But then the little things started stacking up. Courtney didn't include Donna in the bridal party photos. Not even one. Donna's name was misspelled on the printed seating chart, and when Donna quietly pointed it out, Courtney said, "The printer already ran the copies, it's fine." The rehearsal dinner was planned entirely around Courtney's family, and Donna wasn't even told what time she was expected to arrive until the morning of. I started to say something to Brandon around month 4 of the planning. I sat him down, calm as I could, and told him his mother was feeling sidelined. He looked genuinely troubled by it. He said he'd talk to Courtney. Whatever conversation happened, it didn't change anything. And then, about 2 weeks before the wedding, something happened that made all of it look minor. Donna had volunteered to help set up the reception hall the day before the wedding. That was very Donna. Even after all of it, she still showed up with her sleeves rolled up and a warm smile, ready to help. Courtney's mother and two of her aunts were there directing things. Donna offered to help arrange centerpieces. She was told, very flatly, that they had it covered. So Donna ended up mostly standing on the side, handing things to people when asked, staying out of the way. She told me about it that night, and I could see how much it stung. Not that anyone was cruel to her, exactly. Just that she was treated like a stranger at her own son's wedding event. But here's the part that mattered. Donna had left her cardigan on her designated chair, the mother of the groom chair, the one with her name tag on it, when she'd gone to help carry in some centerpiece boxes from a car. When she came back, Courtney was standing near that chair. Donna didn't think anything of it. She grabbed her cardigan, said goodnight, and drove home. She mentioned it to me almost as an afterthought. Courtney was near my chair for a few minutes. I guess she was checking the placement. I filed it away without really knowing why. The wedding day itself was beautiful. I'll give Courtney full credit. The woman had taste, the venue looked stunning, the ceremony was moving. Brandon cried when he saw her come down the aisle. I cried watching Brandon cry. Even I'm not made of stone. The reception began. Everyone was seated. The head table, the family tables, all arranged perfectly. And then, maybe 20 minutes into the reception, I noticed something. I had gotten up to visit the bar, and on my way back, I walked past the row of family chairs along the back wall. Donna's designated chair, the mother of the groom chair, had a slightly different sheen on the seat. A faint, glossy patch right in the center of the cushion. I stopped. I looked closer. My stomach dropped. I reached down and pressed two fingers lightly against the fabric. They stuck. Not completely. Not like I'd touched a mousetrap. But enough. That slow, resistant pull of adhesive that you feel before you realize what it is. Super glue. Someone had put super glue on my wife's chair. And in that moment, standing in the middle of my son's wedding reception, every single moment from the past 18 months lined up in my mind like a row of dominoes and fell. Courtney near the chair. The setup day. The deliberate exclusions. The small humiliations that were always just small enough to deny. Donna was still at the cocktail hour table across the room, laughing with my sister. She hadn't sat down yet. I had maybe 4 minutes. Maybe less. I want to be honest about what I felt in those 4 minutes, because it wasn't simple. Part of me wanted to walk straight to Brandon and tell him what I found. Part of me wanted to find Courtney and confront her right then and there in the middle of her own reception. Part of me, and I'm not proud of this, wanted to just let Donna sit down so the whole room could see exactly what kind of person Courtney was. But I kept coming back to one thing, Donna. If I made a scene, Donna would be devastated. Not for herself, for Brandon. She would spend the rest of her life believing that she ruined her son's wedding day, even though she was the victim. That's just who Donna is. She carries other people's shame as if it belongs to her. And I thought about Brandon in his tuxedo, still glowing from watching his bride walk down the aisle an hour ago. I couldn't blow up his wedding day. I just couldn't. But I also could not let this woman humiliate my wife. So I made a decision. I walked back to the chair. Calmly. Like I was just surveying the room. There were 2 chairs next to each other, the mother of the groom and the father of the groom. Mine and Donna's. I switched them. Simple as that. I picked up the name cards, swapped them, and walked away. Now my chair had the super glue. My name card was on it. And before you ask, yes. I sat down in that chair. On purpose. I am 61 years old, I weigh 210 pounds, and I was wearing dress pants with a thick lining. I sat down firmly, waited a beat, and stood back up like nothing happened. My pants stuck slightly. I freed myself without fanfare. Damage minimal? To me, none. To Courtney's plan, everything. I watched her from across the room for the next 20 minutes. She kept glancing over at the family chairs. Her eyes moved to Donna, who was now seated comfortably in the correct untampered chair, laughing with my sister-in-law, completely unbothered. Then Courtney's eyes moved to me. I met her gaze. I didn't smile. I didn't glare. I just looked at her, steady and calm, the way you look at someone when you want them to know, without a single word, that you know exactly what they did. The color drained from her face. And I picked up my glass of water and looked away. Now here's where I want you to understand something. I didn't tell anyone that night. Not Donna, not Brandon, not a single guest. I protected the peace of that wedding with everything I had. I danced with my wife, I toasted my son, I hugged Courtney for a photo and smiled like a man with absolutely nothing on his mind. But karma, real karma, doesn't need an announcement. About 40 minutes after I switched those chairs, Courtney's own mother sat in one of the chairs near the family section. It was not the superglued chair. Let me be clear. I had already neutralized that one. But here is what nobody planned for. Courtney, in her rush to set up the glue the day before, had apparently been sloppy. Because when Donna's cousin Marcus went to pull out a chair from the adjacent table, a chair none of us had touched, he found his hand stuck to the backrest. Turns out Courtney had gotten glue on the back of the chair next to Donna's as well. Maybe while she was applying it, maybe she dripped, maybe she touched it and accidentally transferred it. We'll never know. Marcus, who is a big, jovial man with absolutely no filter, let out a yelp that stopped the entire reception. What in the somebody put glue on this chair? The DJ cut the music. Half the room turned around. Marcus stood there holding up his hand, fingers glistening, with the chair hanging from his palm like a caught fish. In the silence that followed, I watched Courtney's face go through approximately 7 different stages of panic. And then, God bless him, the wedding coordinator walked over, examined the chair, and said clearly enough for the nearby tables to hear. This looks like it was done deliberately. There's adhesive on at least 2 chairs over here. Courtney's mother turned to look at her daughter. Courtney said nothing. She laughed, this strange, stiff little laugh, and said, "That's so weird, who would even do that?" Nobody answered her. But a lot of people were looking. I never confronted Courtney directly. I never told Brandon what I found that night. I protected his wedding day, and I have 0 regrets about that. But about 3 weeks after the wedding, I sat down with Brandon alone, no Courtney, just the 2 of us, and I told him everything. Calmly. Factually. I described the sheen on the chair, the way my fingers stuck, the switched name cards, all of it. He was quiet for a very long time. Then he said, "Dad, why didn't you tell me?" And I said, "Because it was your wedding day, son. That was yours. I wasn't going to let anybody take that from you." He cried. Brandon, my 29-year-old son who works in finance and drives a nice car and rarely shows much, cried. He hugged me in the kitchen of my house for a long moment, and then he pulled back and said, "I need to talk to Courtney." I don't know the full details of that conversation. I wasn't there. That's between a husband and his wife, and it should stay that way. What I do know is this: 2 months later, Courtney called Donna and asked if they could have lunch. Donna said yes, because that's Donna. I don't know everything that was said over that lunch. But Donna came home quieter than usual. Not sad. Just thoughtful. That night she told me, "I think she was jealous of us, Gerald. I think she was afraid that Brandon would always put us first, and she just didn't know how to handle that." I thought about that for a long time. I still think about it. Because here's what I've learned after 34 years of marriage and 61 years of living: fear makes people do terrible things. It makes them small and petty and cruel in ways they might not even fully understand themselves. That doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make what Courtney did forgivable in any quick or easy way. But it does make it human. My wife, the woman Courtney tried to humiliate, is the one who extended the olive branch. She's the one who showed up to that lunch and opened a door. And knowing Donna, she probably poured the coffee too. That's the difference between a person who leads with love and a person who leads with fear. As for the chair, I had it reupholstered. Treated myself to that. It sits in my garage now, good as new, with no trace of what happened on it. Sometimes I sit in it on Sunday mornings with my coffee, and I think about that evening, the lights, the music, Brandon's face when he saw his bride, Donna laughing at the family table, Marcus holding up that chair like a trophy. And I think we won. Not because we fought. Not because we destroyed anyone. But because when someone tried to make us small, we stayed exactly who we are. That's the only kind of winning that lasts. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe, because every single week, I share real stories about family, love, betrayal, and the quiet strength it takes to choose grace over revenge. Drop in the comments, what would you have done in my place? I read every single one.